Have you ever felt like your own mind is a labyrinth of unanswered questions? That the very organ that defines who you are holds secrets you can only begin to comprehend? Welcome, intrepid explorers, to Top 10 Mysteries of the Mind, where we delve into the most baffling phenomena of human consciousness. Kicking off our journey at number 10 is a sensation that's the mirror image of a more famous phenomenon, Jamais Vu. We've all experienced déjà vu, that eerie feeling that you've lived a moment before, even if you haven't. But what about its lesser-known, more unsettling sibling? Jamais vu, French for never seen, is the bizarre experience of looking at something perfectly familiar, a word, a face, even your own reflection, and suddenly perceiving it as utterly alien. Imagine staring at a simple word you've known your whole life, like tree, and repeating it over and over until it loses all meaning. It becomes a strange, nonsensical jumble of letters. Or perhaps you're talking to a close friend, and for a fleeting, terrifying moment, their face seems completely foreign to you, as if you've never met them. Researchers believe jamais vu might be linked to a temporary fatigue in the brain semantic network, the intricate web of connections that gives words and concepts their meaning. It's like your brain takes a brief holiday from understanding the familiar, leaving you in a momentary state of cognitive disconnect. While often fleeting and harmless, Jamais Vu offers a fascinating glimpse into the fragile nature of our perception and the subtle mechanisms that keep our world feeling coherent and familiar. It reminds us that even the most fundamental aspects of our reality are, in some ways, constructed by our minds. But Jamais Vu is just the beginning. What other perplexing phenomena lie hidden within the confines of our own skulls? Stay tuned as we unravel more of the top 10 mysteries of the mind. Next up on our countdown, at number 9, is a sensation perhaps more frustrating than any other short-term memory failure. Presque Vu. If Jamais Vu is the feeling of seeing something familiar as strange, Presque Vu is the persistent, maddening feeling of being on the brink of knowing something. The name itself, French for almost seen, perfectly captures this phenomenon, often called the tip-of-the-tongue state. We've all been there, desperately trying to recall a person's name, a song title, or a specific word. You know it? You can almost feel the syllables. You might even recall the first letter, the number of syllables, or a word that rhymes with it. But the actual answer remains stubbornly locked just behind a mental barrier. This isn't just simple forgetting. When you forget, the information is gone. With Presque Vu, the memory is clearly active and accessible, but the final step in retrieval, the actual sound or sight of the word, is temporarily blocked. Neuroscientists suggest that the tip-of-the-tongue state happens when there is a temporary disconnect between the semantic memory, the meaning of the word or concept, and the phonological memory, the sound and structure of the word. Your brain has the concept, but it loses the link to the label. It is a common human experience, proving that memory retrieval is a complex, multi-stage process where sometimes one piece of the puzzle can go missing, leaving your entire mind buzzing with frustrated near success. Moving on to number 8, we examine a phenomenon that makes the world feel like it's playing a strange, personal joke on you, the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. Its more technical name is the frequency illusion, and you've definitely experienced it. Imagine you've just learned a completely new, obscure word. Or maybe you've decided you want to buy a very specific car model, like a vintage olive green sedan. Then suddenly that word, or that exact car, seems to appear everywhere you look in books, conversations, or driving past you on the street. It feels like the universe has conspired to bring this one specific thing to your attention, but in reality, nothing in the world has changed. Its frequency has remained exactly the same. The illusion is caused by two psychological factors working in tandem. The first is selective attention. When a new concept becomes relevant to you, your brain flags it as important. Your mind is now unconsciously primed to notice it, filtering it out from the constant deluge of background information. The second factor is confirmation bias. Every time you spot the item, you count it as proof that it's suddenly everywhere, while you ignore the countless times you didn't see it. This confirms your initial, false impression of its increased frequency. So while the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is ultimately a fun quirk of human cognition, it's a powerful reminder that our brains actively construct our reality, often leading us to see patterns and frequencies that simply aren't there. Moving to number 7, We explore the one mystery that truly blurs the line between science and the supernatural: precognition. Precognition is the extraordinary claim of knowing something before it happens, literally seeing the future. This feeling often manifests in fleeting moments, a vivid, prophetic dream that later mirrors a real-life event, a sudden, intense feeling that warns you about an impending danger, or a precise, random thought that perfectly anticipates a person's next action or word. For millennia, people across all cultures have reported these moments of foresight, giving rise to ideas of sixth senses, oracular powers, and psychic abilities. But how does the mind, an organ bound by the rules of cause and effect, possibly access future information? Mainstream science dismisses precognition as an actual ability, attributing it instead to the tricks of memory and probability. One explanation is selective recall. Since we have thousands of thoughts and dreams every day, the law of averages dictates that occasionally, one will coincidentally line up with a real future event. When that coincidence happens, it's so powerful and memorable that we focus on it, completely forgetting the thousands of dreams and thoughts that were wrong. Another factor is our brain's incredible, subconscious ability to predict. Your mind processes vast amounts of subtle data, a slight change in someone's tone, a shift in weather patterns, a complex market trend, and projects a possible outcome. When this projection turns out to be correct, it feels like magic, when in fact, it's just the result of powerful, non-conscious calculation. Nevertheless, the profound, unshakable personal experience of true premonition continues to secure precognition's place as one of the deepest, most fascinating mysteries the mind has to offer. Dropping into the middle of our countdown at number 6, we have the temporal opposite of our last mystery: retrocognition. While precognition is the alleged ability to see the future, retrocognition is the purported psychic power to see the past, to perceive events that happened long before you were born, or in a place you have never been, without the aid of books or historical records. The experience often involves a deep connection to a specific location or object. Someone might touch an antique artifact and suddenly experience a flood of visions, seeing the life of its previous owner, a dramatic event that occurred in a specific room or the atmosphere of a bygone era. It feels like accessing an historical record imprinted not on paper, but on the fabric of reality itself. For those who claim this ability, it's not a logical deduction. It's a vivid, sensory immersion into a time-long past. From a scientific perspective, retrocognition is typically explained by several psychological phenomena. The first is cryptomnesia, a form of memory where information you once learned, perhaps in a documentary, a book, or a casual conversation, is forgotten as a memory source, and when it is recalled, it is mistakenly believed to be a genuine, newly created thought or vision. Another possibility is the power of suggestion and the creation of false memories. When a person knows the general history of a location, their mind can easily construct vivid, dramatic images based on that foundation, which the individual then genuinely believes they have seen. Despite the skepticism, the powerful feeling of seeing history unfold before your eyes, untouched by normal research, makes retrocognition a compelling and enduring mystery of the mind. We've arrived at the midpoint of our countdown. Coming in at number 5 is a mystery you can actually experience at home: the Ganzfeld Effect. The term Ganzfeld is German for entire field, and the effect demonstrates what happens when your brain is starved of varied sensory input. Normally, your brain is bombarded with constantly changing sights, sounds, and touches. It cleverly filters out the static and repetitive data so you can focus on what's new or important. The Ganzfeld experiment is simple. A person is placed in a quiet room, wears headphones that play only a steady, uniform white or pink noise, and has halved ping-pong balls placed over their eyes, which are lit by a uniform red or white light. The result is a complete lack of changing visual or auditory information. After just a few minutes, the brain, desperately seeking new data, begins to compensate. When the usual signals don't arrive, it starts generating its own. The resulting experience can include vivid hallucinations, ranging from simple geometric shapes and colors to complex visions of people, objects, and landscapes. Many participants also report feeling profound sensations, hearing voices, or experiencing an altered sense of time. Some studies even suggested the Ganzfeld state could enhance psychic abilities, though those findings remain highly controversial and largely unsupported. What the Ganzfeld effect proves unequivocally is that our perception of reality is highly dependent on constant sensory stimulation. Take that stimulation away, and the human mind will spontaneously create its own reality to fill the void. For number 4, we confront a mystery that explains how misinformation spreads in the age of the internet: the Illusory Truth Effect. In short, this is the phenomenon that dictates that the more often you hear a statement, the more likely you are to believe it is true, regardless of whether it actually is. It's often summed up by the old adage, a lie told once is a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. This effect works because of something called processing fluency. When you encounter a statement for the first time, your brain has to work hard to evaluate and process it. But when you hear that statement for the second, third, or 10th time, it's easier to process. It feels familiar. Your brain then makes a crucial error in judgment. It mistakes that fluency, that ease of processing, for credibility or truth. Because it felt so easy and familiar to process the statement, your mind mistakenly concludes, I must have processed this easily because it is an established, factual piece of information. This effect is why advertising and political campaigns rely so heavily on simple, repetitive slogans, and why the spread of urban legends and outright fake news can be so insidious. We might intellectually know a claim is false, but if our brain has encountered it enough times, we can't shake the intuitive, deep-seated feeling that it must be correct. The Illusory Truth Effect reveals that the power of repetition can often overpower the power of critical thought. We're now in the top 3. Taking the third spot is one of the strangest and rarest of all psychiatric mysteries: Ganser Syndrome. Often classified as a dissociative disorder, Ganser syndrome is defined by a central, baffling symptom known as vorbeierden, or giving approximate answers. A patient with Ganser syndrome will answer questions in a way that is clearly wrong, yet it simultaneously proves they understood the question perfectly. For example, if asked, how many legs does a dog have? The answer might be 5, or if asked, what is 2 plus 2? The patient might confidently answer 5. The error is obvious, yet the logic behind the question was clearly grasped. Historically, this syndrome was often called prison psychosis because it was most frequently observed in inmates under conditions of intense stress, isolation, or trauma. Clinically, it is now viewed as a genuine dissociative state, a defense mechanism where the mind attempts to cope with overwhelming emotional distress by temporarily withdrawing or manifesting incompetence. The mystery lies in the mechanism itself. Is the patient unconsciously trying to appear too mentally unwell to be held responsible? Or is the syndrome a literal breakdown of the cognitive bridge between understanding and expression, where the subconscious mind chooses to supply a nearby but incorrect answer? Ganser syndrome remains an enigma, illustrating the extreme and often paradoxical ways the human mind can protect itself when pushed to its absolute limit. We are at the penultimate spot in our countdown. Taking the number 2 position is a subtle, yet profound visual mystery that reveals your brain's constant effort to edit your reality: the Troxler Effect. Discovered in 1804 by Swiss physician Ignaz Troxler, this effect proves that your eyes don't just record the world. Your brain actively filters it. The phenomenon is simple. If you stare intently at a single fixed point for about 30 seconds, any visual stimuli in your peripheral vision, especially objects that are dull, faint, or lack color, will slowly begin to fade, blur, and eventually vanish completely from your conscious perception. The mechanism behind this is called neural adaptation, or sensory fading. The neurons in your retina that are responsible for processing information in your peripheral field are designed to respond primarily to change or movement. When you fix your gaze, those peripheral images become stable and unchanging. The neurons get fatigued or bored, and they stop sending a signal to your brain. Your brain then assumes that if the signal has stopped, that area of the visual field must be uniform and empty. To compensate, it often fills the blank spot with whatever color or pattern surrounds it, making the peripheral image disappear entirely. The Troxler Effect is a powerful demonstration that our visual reality is not a constant feed, but an active construction where the mind ruthlessly deletes anything it deems unimportant or too stable. And finally, we arrive at the number 1 mystery of the mind: This phenomenon is so disturbing, so fundamental to the nature of our consciousness, it might change how you view every decision you make. This is choice blindness. Choice blindness is the stunning failure of an individual to notice when their own previous choice has been secretly switched, and then, immediately afterward, they proceed to wholeheartedly defend and rationalize the choice they didn't make. In a classic experiment, participants were asked to choose which of two photos they found more attractive. Researchers then used sleight of hand to secretly switch the photo the participant chose with the one they rejected. When asked to explain why they chose the face they were now holding, the overwhelming majority of people failed to notice the switch. They immediately invented elaborate, confident, and specific reasons for preferring the face they had just minutes before deemed less attractive. The implication is profound. Much of what we consider rational thought is actually post hoc rationalization. Our conscious mind isn't always the wise commander making decisions. It's often the spin doctor, confabulating reasons to justify an outcome that has already happened. Choice blindness suggests that our memory of our intentions and the justifications for our actions are surprisingly weak. It is a fundamental crack in the bedrock of conscious introspection, forcing us to ask, if we can't even reliably identify and defend the choices we just made, how much control do we truly have over the complex, mysterious machine we call the mind? And there you have it, the top 10 mysteries of the mind. If you thought you knew yourself before, you certainly have a lot more to think about now.